Hello, family and friends. Welcome to another episode of Talks with Lim Lee. I'm your host. I'm a software engineer and have a degree in computer networks.
Good morning. I am Emmett Morgan. I have a degree in accounting from San Diego State. Currently doing real estate, helping people buy and sell homes
In Las Vegas. And our guest.
Hi, everyone. My name is Milos Simic. I'm a PhD. I work at UCSF as a scientist. I got my degree in genetics.
Excellent.
And, yeah.
So are we supposed to call you Dr. Simic now?
No, you just Milos is fine.
Are you speaking to us from San Francisco currently? Is this your location?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Excellent.
I'm in San Francisco right now.
So you just published a paper. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, we just got it out on Thursday.
How huge is that for you?
So that's like one of the ways, and that's probably the most important way of actually showing to the community that you are, a good scientist, and that's how you publicize your work. Because that's like it goes through different processes, and what we call the peer reviewing process, where your peers basically will challenge your research.
So other genetic doctors will look at your studies and your conclusions and say, this is bullshit or seems pretty legit.
Exactly. That's how it works, and that's how you make this research legit in our field. So basically, what you would do is you work on your project. You have a bunch of data. You make a story out of it. You make it follow a certain narrative, and you submit that to journals, scientific journals, who will send it out for review to other peers, and the other peers will evaluate your work. Say, oh, you're missing this. I don't think your hypothesis is right. I think your conclusion is wrong. Can you address this and this and this? And then you will come back. The editor will decide if it's good enough or not. You have the time to review usually, and then if it meets the expectations from the editor and also from the reviewers, then it gets published.
Do the reviewers sign off like, Dr. Johnson in Minnesota is like, oh, okay,
So
looks good.
So that's a very good point, because so far, the only person it depends where you actually are trying to submit, like which journal you submit it to. Some do not provide who actually did the review process, so it's anonymous. But other journals will give actually the full list of the people who actually reviewed the paper. So, and like eLife is one of them who try to actually change that, because you don't want people to you want to have a like conflict of interest. You also want people to destroy your story just because they hate you and things like that. So there are different ways that people try to address those issues, and one of them is actually listing the names after the entire process is done.
Yeah,
the names are listed who reviewed those papers. I think that's an interesting way of avoiding those issues.
Yeah, this is interesting for us because we understand the idea of research and peer review, but as far as what it actually looks like, to hear it from a doctor is something that most of us don't interact with. So what you described so far, it makes me wonder, do you have like genetic doctor enemies in other colleges?
So you always have
That looked like a yes.
no, so that's a good thing.
That motherfucker Johnson.
You always have, like, we always make fun of reviewer 3, who's like the worst reviewer. So usually you assign to 3 people usually, like so you review 1, 2, 3, and it's always funny because, like, of course, reviewer 1 would be really nice. Oh, I love the work, blah blah blah. The second one will be kind of, and the third one will be like, this is all bullshit.
Oh,
It usually goes like, it can go better, it can go worse, but it's always something that's.
Wait, so does the journal select who's reviewing?
Yes, the editor usually will send it out. So you can make a list of people you wish to review your paper, and you can also make a list of people who should not. And you should explain why you think they should not. And usually it's either because there's a conflict of interest,
Yeah.
or or there's like some issues going on between you two, or
Yeah,
things like
he thinks I'm after his wife.
something like that. No, the thing is, like, you can always, like, I mean, you're always competing, like, worldwide. Like, the topics, some of the topics, I mean, a lot of the topics are very similar, and you're always competing with other labs. So
Yeah.
it's very likely that somebody else is doing something very similar.
So
And
sorry if I cut you off. Continue going. If
no, go ahead.
So from the outside world, if someone were to not, they understand publishing, and then that there's peer review. How could you, if they didn't believe it or something, how could you describe to them that it is not where people don't falsify a peer review, or someone publishes something crappy and then somehow other people say that is a good published paper? How would you prove that to them or describe to them?
Like how do you explain the legitimacy of this process to a non-educated person?
I mean, the peer review process itself relies on the fact that you involve enough people to confront the ideas and challenge the ideas, challenge the conclusions. And they are, like, the reviewers actually need to judge whatever, like, the statistical significance of your work, make sure that what you're showing is actually done in enough repeats, enough times, that this is actually solid data, that things make sense overall. And that's how things get out and are, like, legitimized.
Gotcha.
So for all research scientists, do you have to, in effect, become somewhat of a statistician? You know, at the very least, you have to understand, you know, big sets of data and how to analyze them, right? Is that
so you do. Whenever you publish something, I mean, when it involves numbers and things like that, you always need to have, whatever you provide usually a mean with a standard deviation, and you're supposed to also do statistical tests on what you've done to actually see if what you observe is actually different, if it's the same. So you do need to have some background stats, not like a huge background, but enough to actually, because everything relies on averages, right? At the end of the day, is you're comparing things and you want to ask, oh, does my drug work?
Yeah.
So you give one group the placebo, the one you give the drug, and you measure X, Y, Z, like whatever performance you're interested in, and you ask at the end of the day, is this different from this one? So if we take only one person and another person, they might be different, but that doesn't tell me anything. I need like 1,000 people. I need like more people. So when I do an average, I know that average is actually strong and it obeys some statistical laws, like a Gaussian distribution, which are mathematically very well described, and then you can make statistical comparisons. Yeah. And this statistical comparison is actually going to be very, very, very strong.
See, you can't be a math idiot if you're doing some scientific work.
Well, you shouldn't be. You should be like really good.
Yes.
You should know. I mean, even though you might not do those analysis yourself,
I see.
You should be able to understand those.
Yeah.
But I think it's okay. I'm back.
Yeah, you're back.
Now, I was saying, like, I think it's always important for anyone who does science to have those basic knowledge of statistics.
Yeah.
Because that's, at the end of the day, you want to remove all the bias from the human, like, you cannot just say like, oh, I saw this is different. I mean, that's not good enough to convince someone. I want to see numbers. I want to see a mathematical demonstration, pretty much, that what you're showing me here is actually different.
Yeah, so it's like a basic human fault, right? Is a lot of people are like, oh, I swear to God, I saw a ghost one time. I'm very sure that ghosts exist because I saw one. But
and you think about it, it's kind of like terrifying that. So we know like those are like the most unreliable.
Yeah.
Like, the only best evidence is actually numbers and actually showing like pictures and things like that.
Yeah.
Think about like the testimonies for trials are usually the ones that are like have a huge actually importance on whatever the output is. It's actually scary because things a lot relies on like, oh, I saw this, oh, I heard that.
Right.
Scientifically is like, no,
yeah,
show me the numbers, show me the demonstration.
We want to see lots of pictures of lots of ghosts.
So what did you publish? What was the kind of summary of the things that you discovered and or your data?
What genetic secrets are you uncovering for us?
Okay, so what we do, I mean, as I said, like my PhD and my background is in genetics, but what I'm doing currently is work on synthetic biology.
Synthetic.
And basically, so the idea here is that we try to take advantage of what nature has made already and repurpose it for re-engineering. So we want to reuse some of those things that nature came up with. Like if you heard about CRISPR-Cas9, that's something for genome editing. That's something that is present in bacteria. And in terms, if you think about on an engineering point of view, you already can sense that we could reuse this for making something different that has never been done before, and we can use it as a new tool. So what I'm doing is mostly like a bioengineering approach, where we focus most on immune cells that we try to tweak so they can better kill cancers. Oh. And what I worked on was applying some of those tools that actually are capable of killing cancer, such as like glioblastoma, which is a brain cancer. And with the idea that a lot of like challenging, glioblastoma has like usually a very poor outcome as a cancer. It's not treatable really. You can like cut the.
So if you get brain cancer right now, you're in trouble. There's no good.
Your median survival is about like 14 months.
All right. Yeah.
It's a bad prognosis.
Get on the bucket list. Get working.
It's really bad. Yeah. So one of the things that we worked on was try to overcome some challenges that are inherent to those cancers. And recently, there's been a lot of enthusiasm about CAR T cells. I don't know if you heard about that. Mm-hmm. So for cancer therapy, CAR T cell stands for chimeric antigen receptor T cells. So chimeric antigen receptor is basically a receptor that was, it relies on like what the immune system would actually do to attack things that are foreign to the body. So the way it works is usually the immune system recognizes things that we call non-self. We have those antigens. So if there's a bacteria, there's a virus coming in, you have the immune system that explores, that usually scouts your body. And as soon as it finds something that's unusual, that's something that should not be there, then it starts launching an attack on it. But the receptors, whatever the ways those T cells are capable of recognizing things that are non-selves, people have re-engineered it in the lab to make it a little bit easier to work with. So basically now you can re-engineer. So you can take T cells. You know what T cells are?
Is that like in the white blood cells? That's what's fighting.
So, okay, keep asking questions like when I use a word or like things that are.
Well, let's start with So for our audience, CRISPR, is it correct to understand that this is a tool for allowing you to edit the genome of a single cell? Is that like the genetic code in a cell? CRISPR allows you to make some changes to that code. Is that a correct way to understand
that's correct. So CRISPR is basically just like an enzyme that's capable of cutting DNA. So that's how bacteria actually protect themselves from viruses.
Chop them up.
So originally, like how it was discovered, so bacteria actually get infected by viruses. And a way of like the bacteria itself to defend its genome is actually as soon as it finds a sequence that's actually not supposed to be there, that's not your sequence, starts to cut that sequence and destroys it. So that's like the viral sequence will be attacked, and then you just like cut it, so you escape infection. That's actually kind of a very primitive immune system or whatever. It's not really an immune system, but it's a way of like the bacteria defends itself. So yes, so now like we can take the same CRISPR, that enzyme, make the protein, or and now use the fact that you can couple it with actually a sequence that recognizes, that matches another sequence that you want to cut in your genome, and now you have both the recognition and the enzyme that cuts. So that complex is now going to go into your DNA. When it finds like the sequence that pairs, that matches exactly, because the DNA will match with like AT. I mean, you have your base pairs, so AT match together, and CG match together. So you have like about 20 letters.
Yeah.
And when you find the exact match, or more or less the exact match, then you can cut. And that's what CRISPR-Cas9 does.
So
then you can come up with because the cells will not just leave your DNA broken like this. It will try to repair it. So you can either get another template DNA that you want to be changed. So you basically have pretty much a long string of DNA with a change that you're interested in introducing in the cell. And you will just put that together with the CRISPR-Cas9 complex. And the cell now will look for anything that's similar, so it can repair itself. The DNA needs to be repaired, it's been cut. And so by taking advantage of that machinery of your cells repairing itself, you can introduce a new point mutation, or you can introduce an entire gene if you're interested, and you can change things like that.
So in your case, you're targeting brain cancer cells and saying, hey, we want to cut out part of this bad DNA, and we're going to instruct you. Nope, not correct.
No, sorry. I mentioned CRISPR-Cas9 for other reasons, but not for my work. For my work, actually, no. So for my work, what we've done basically, so over the last couple of, probably a decade now, like a couple of decades, there has been like really new treatments, pretty amazing, that are called CAR T-cell therapy for cancers.
Oh, that's what you're talking about, yeah. So CRISPR is old stuff, and you're on the cutting edge of gene.
It's different. It's a parallel universe.
Gotcha. So different tool with different capabilities.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Now for cancer therapy, so the CAR T cells, which are these chimeric antigen receptors that have been developed, have been shown like pretty amazing results for leukemias, for example. So a lot of those leukemias were treated by chemo. You had some percentage of people who relapse, and those people were pretty much sentenced to death at that point. But with this new way of using your T cells, where basically we take T cells from the patient, bring them to lab, re-engineer them in a way that now we add that chimeric antigen receptor that's going to get into the cell, that's now able to recognize specifically the cancer antigen. And now you reintroduce that in the patients, and now those T cells, which are your own T cells, but they've been tweaked now to attack the cancer. So now those T cells will be able to recognize the cancer.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, so that's a that literally has been, revolutionizing the cancer therapy over the last couple of years. It's been FDA approved. It's a treatment that's extremely expensive for now, for leukemias applications. But things are, I'm sure like in the long run, things are gonna go down. But that being said, that's leukemia. And there's still a lot of challenges with solid tumors, which is why we are interested in glioblastoma as a treatment. And all of these technologies rely on one fact, which is you need to find what makes the cancer, you need to find the antigen that's specific to the cancer. So you need to instruct your T cell to go kill a particular cell based on something that's a tag that's on the surface, and that tag needs to be only on cancer cells. Because if it's not on cancer cells, you're gonna start killing healthy tissue.
And that's the problem with chemo, right? Because chemo is not targeted cell by cell.
It's not super targeted. No, it's not. Okay. That's a huge. There's a lot of like cytotoxicity, of target toxicity, because it just will slow down or will kill anything that's, result in death of cells that are dividing actively.
Yeah. So you're literally out here curing cancer. This is
trying.
That's a big thing in our society. So this is, for anybody watching, this is a dude that's out here trying to cure cancer for us. This is fantastic. Sorry, I get excited, so I don't mean to take over.
No, go for it, man. No, I'm that statement alone. That's great. That's fantastic.
Yeah,
it's a long road. It's like there's a lot of challenges for cancer. As you can think about it, cancer is not just so. One of the biggest challenges that we have is finding those what makes cancer specific. So how do you target? So you need to find that specific tag that's only on cancer cells, right? So you can spare the healthy tissue. But at the same time, that tag needs to be on all the cancer cells.
Yeah.
So otherwise, even if there's one that's,
they multiply,
escapes, it will come back.
Yeah.
So it's a question of time. So you need to ensure that you basically clear everything. So there has been like new tools that have been engineered where basically now you can make combinatorial approaches. Like you can make decisions. You can instruct the T cells to make Boolean decisions. Basically,
you can program the T cells
exactly
for different scenarios.
Yes. So basically, you can now, like, instead of having only one thing to target, you can say like, oh, if you have A and B, then you can kill. Which actually, if you think about it, now that opens up like a two-dimensional space where you can have A and B, and only you will rely on the fact that only cancer cells will have A and B.
Yes.
And that, like, you can have A somewhere else or B somewhere else in a healthy tissue, but it's not going to kill it because you need A and B.
Yeah, you don't want to kill your brain cancer if it accidentally also kills eyeballs.
Yeah. But when it comes to, sometimes when it comes like to, surviving or losing maybe another tissue, sometimes you can afford that. And that's actually that's the case for leukemia, because the antigens that's used to actually kill. So leukemia is actually targeting. So those CAR treatment are targeting a protein that's also present on B cells.
B cells?
Yes, your B cells.
Okay.
So basically, you can also. So it will result in killing the cancer, but it will also result in killing your B cells, so the B cells are the ones that are producing antibodies. So it's not the target that's been using so far for leukemia is also a target, like the tag is also present on B cells, your healthy B cells.
Yeah.
So in that case, if you think about it, you will destroy your B cells also, but it's okay. It's not too bad to not have B cells. It's not great.
Yeah.
It's not that bad, because the alternative is death.
Yeah.
So you can still live perfectly fine. I mean, you need to,
better than dead. Not dead.
Yeah. I mean, your B cells are the one that secrete antibodies.
Gotcha.
It's not great not to have antibodies, but you can still live without.
While working on this stuff, do you happen to feel that there's a race, as in there's other scientists and doctors doing all this research? Do you feel someone's close to you when you're doing your research, or do you feel like you're on the bleeding edge where you kind of don't have any competition?
No, it's actually a very hard field, and there's a lot of competition. And so the approaches are going to be maybe different, but they look very similar overall. So you will definitely, we always I think like every scientist is worried about being scooped. That's how we usually say, so if somebody else publishes before you on the same topic, which kills the novelty for you.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
So we always worried about that. And a lot of our, especially in bioengineering where things move very, very fast.
Yeah.
You need to be more secretive about, or like wait pretty much until the very, very end to actually show your data or like discuss those things.
So what was your approach that made it so what did you publish on? Like, what was your approach to get to the answer or the data that you ended up publishing? What made it so different that maybe other scientists weren't doing?
So we use that system, basically that's a combinatorial approach where we can basically instruct the T cells to sense the environment, and based on the cues that it senses, can make a decision whether it's going to kill or not. And one of the my approach that I had was that relying on the fact that glioblastoma is a cancer of the brain that doesn't metastasize. So anything outside, it usually would not go outside of the brain. It's very, very rare. So what if we can instruct the T cell, which will go anywhere in your body, but when it feels that it's in the brain, knows it's in the brain, now can start killing the cancer. So that was my approach for that project, where basically I can get the T cell to sense that it's in the brain and knows it's in the brain, and now when it's in the brain, can start killing the cancer. And the way it's killing, it's actually the tag that's being used is a tag that potentially can be expressed somewhere else in the body. But because it's instructing the T cell, like it's only when you are in the brain that you can now kill anything that has that tag.
That sounds pretty fantastic.
It's like going from a shotgun to a programmed sniper rifle.
You're sniping in the brain.
Sniping the brain on target.
Well, no, seriously though. So when you publish, do you feel like a badass? Like, man, this all worked. This is really something awesome. Does it feel like a crowning achievement? Is this a big accomplishment?
It is a big accomplishment. That's good, because at the end of the day, that's how you judged by the community.
Yeah.
So I would say people can show work that are not published, and it's exciting. But at the end of the day, you need that peer reviewing process, which kind of seals the legitimate, like it makes it legit, and now it's out in the world, and for people to comment on it.
This is real science, motherfuckers.
Yeah, you can then you can definitely, it feels great.
That's cool, man.
Where do you see this? Like, is this so bleeding edge where it's going to take 5 to 10 years before we might see this in the public space per se? Or do you see
or as a real treatment?
Yeah,
for people with brain cancer. Yeah. So if somebody gets brain cancer, will it be? Well, it won't be tomorrow. So in a couple of years, could somebody get this treatment, or what's the process to get from research to?
So right now, like that's one of the great things that, because we work closely with clinicians who are actually very excited about those applications, and especially for CAR T-cell therapy and cancers, things move really fast, and we are pushing towards clinical trials for one of those. So in the paper, there's like 2 approaches that we used, but we'll kind of like same using like this approach of combinatorial sensing evaluation. So basically, a lot of it, requires a lot of money. Clinical trials are like very, very expensive. So what my boss and like the other clinicians are doing who are involved in that project is actually requesting for funding and getting things moving forward, so we can actually eventually get this, phase 1 or like get it started for clinical trial.
So a clinical trial, is it, hey, I got to find 1,000 people with this brain cancer, and then we're gonna.
So basically, it's kind of so you would come up with a protocol where basically you would say, okay, people who fail this and this and this therapy will be eligible for this, or like these are the criteria that we're looking for people who would be interested in a clinical trial. Being part of the clinical trial, and like you need to recruit a lot of people, and that's usually that's probably like the most challenging part, because there's quite a bit of people with glioblastoma, but not that many. So also we need special, like in the protocol that we interested to apply is for a subset of people who have glioblastoma, so it's not everybody.
Right.
So that kind of makes it smaller, the pool smaller and smaller.
Do you think your success will feel more gray and less white and black, in the sense of, say 5 years from now, someone or maybe 10 years, you've gone through clinical trials and it's been approved, and then someone gets saved, they had brain cancer, and then what your research did save someone, but will it be so far away, like it's jumped from company to company that purchased? I don't know if they would buy your research, and then is it your success and your celebration will be more gray and not black and white? If you understand my question.
I think at one point, like things are not gonna be. It's not something I will be following up, because I'm not like the clinical aspect of clinical applications is not something necessarily like I have the credentials for. I'm more like on the early on, so I would not like follow that until every single step, because other people will who have more experience for that particular process, because it is. You come for products, you need to, here.
Hello.
The cussing bird is here. Yeah, I think you would hear the results of the clinical trial, though, right? You'd be like,
eventually, yeah. So
that would be a day to pop champagne, I think, if you hear, some people that would have otherwise died got to use this new treatment and survived, right?
That would be amazing. Yeah.
Okay.
So right now, I think we're trying to keep it more like in the academic clinical trial, which is really hard, because usually academia does not have that much money to actually fund those clinical trials. They usually ends up being tested by other big groups, but also big groups are not necessarily interested in. They have their own interests.
Yeah.
We need to find a market. If you think about the economics behind that, so if the market is not like big, they might not be interested in using, in deploying or putting efforts for that disease.
Yeah, nobody cares about brain cancer until it's too late, right? Like, I really care about brain cancer now. All of a sudden,
humans, we don't put money where we need to ahead of time most of the time. So.
But also like for companies, I think like there's a big, it's a lot of investment. It costs a lot of money, and we probably won't get that money back for maybe for like that particular cancer. Yeah. It's always like, we always think about it as who are the customers, or or what is your target audience, or are you going to make enough money out of it? So you invested millions, dozens of millions on the product, and they expect the money to come back, right?
Yeah.
And that's like, when things are private, that's how it looks like. But if you're in an academic setting, you don't have to worry about that. Yeah. Like not that you don't have to be profitable. Like if you are, that's great, but that's not necessarily what you're looking for.
Yeah, purely the research.
So earlier when you said I think a few sentences ago, you said you're going to try to keep in the academic area. So that's what you're saying, that probably due to the funding, is it going to make it easier for it to grow? Is that what you're getting at?
So I think, so it's not like something I'm in charge. So that's more like my the bosses that are interested in that. And I think that's for that very particular applications, there's like a lot of, I think they want to have it funded through within the academic space at UCSF, or maybe reaching out to other universities. I don't know what's the strategy yet, but yeah, I think they just having it in the academic world is just might be just easier actually to go all the way through the entire process.
Probably
but
for
it's
funding.
more challenging because the funding is not because you need like a lot of money, and academic world does not have as much money as what industry would have.
Gotcha. Is there
a smaller checkbook?
Yeah, it is.
When you say brain cancer, and sorry if any of my questions are stupid, is there specific brain cancers, plural, or is brain cancer in general just lumped into one term? Is there different types of brain cancers?
So there are, yeah, you have like different types of brain cancers. Glioblastoma is one of them. You have other types that are affecting different regions of the brain. You have other ones that are more like maybe more diffuse. So glioblastoma tends to be, I mean, it also can be diffuse, but yeah, you have different subtypes depending on, how they, what's the origin of that cancer and things like that.
So does your research target all the brain cancers, or is it specifically a certain subset?
So we tested it on one subset, but the strategy can be generalized to other subsets, and that's
that's awesome.
Another avenue that we are actually exploring for other types of cancers.
What are some of
the recipes? Is you can reuse the same recipe.
It's programmable.
Yeah,
exactly, and that's one of the great things. Is it's programmable. It's also very versatile. So
I tell you what, if you can get it to work on an app on your phone, it'll sell like crazy.
Yeah, you can just like
dial up.
Go ahead.
But it is like at the end of the day, like a way of thinking about it, because it's very modular. The way it's the design is basically you can just say like, oh, I want this, this, and this, and you can just like change the parts, and all the combinations that you want, and test that for the cancer you are interested in.
What were some of the like achievements that you felt and successes during that project? Some of the highlights for you?
Dude, he's curing brain cancer.
Well, there's probably certain little stories that he has in between, I would think.
No, I think like the great feelings is when, so we start testing those, I would call them circuits. I mean, literally because it's like an actual circuit. So we test those in vitro. So just on cells, and like test them like in a dish, make sure that things work. So the big jump is when you test that in an animal, like in a mouse. And when you see actually the cancer shrinking, it's actually very, very exciting, because you see it's shrinking, and the other group that got the placebo keeps like going up, and those will die within maybe 20 days, and the other mice that got the therapy, they're alive, and it's been 2 months. Yeah, that's kind of like, that's super exciting to see that.
Wait, so how do you get your lab mice to get glioblastoma brain cancer?
So you inject those mice.
No, I'm serious.
No. I was laughing at the answer, because I figured that was the answer, to inject the mice with cancer.
Here's some brain cancer.
Yeah. It sounds fucked up, but I mean, it's you got to test on something to save humans eventually. So it makes sense. I'm just laughing at the injecting something with brain cancer.
Yeah, humans don't really like mice. I think that's why we have cats, is because we're anti-mice.
Anti-mice.
Yeah, as a population, as a world.
Yeah. We have, unfortunately, to use a model organism, and it, it's always like a big debate on what's ethical and what's not ethical, and you come to a point where like you need to test, and you cannot go right in the human. That would not be ethical, and oftentimes I end up like doing the least unethical thing, which is testing on another being, and here we're talking on mice.
Yeah, but they have a pretty good life up to that point, right? They get to have free cheese, and they get to run in a maze, and don't have to worry about cats.
It's not that exciting.
Mouse life.
Is there any like inside stories where like a laboratory person takes care of that mice and they really love them, and then they got injected with cancer, and then the treatment doesn't go well, then that mice dies, and the laboratory person starts crying? Is there anything like that?
No, like I think it's
you can't get attached.
It's really hard it's really hard to bond with one mouse because they all look they're all the same.
Just don't name it Ben. If you name your mouse Ben, you're toast.
Yeah.
So random story. So 10 years ago, when me and you were, when all three of us were living at Holly's place, I remember asking you about what you do. One night, I think you came home and I was sitting at the dinner table, and you said that you're, if I remember correctly, bio.
No, it was 10 years ago. Of course you don't remember correctly.
Yeah, biological something researcher. And then I think I asked something to the extent of, well, what is a bio sniper? Back then I asked what does that mean to us common people? And for some reason during that conversation, all I remember is you said, it's good to wash fruit before you eat it, because in a microscope you could see all the tiny little, I guess, either creatures or things that are growing. I just brought up that story to see if it brings up any thoughts in your mind back then. So to think of your journey then to now from that.
Are you still washing your fruit?
I'm still washing my fruit. Yeah, of course. No, I don't remember like what would be the reason why I mentioned that. Like one thing that comes to my mind is maybe if I mention some of the animal models I was working on, which is a tiny little worm on which you can study aging. So if you want to study aging, of course you need to find, like especially in the lab, you need to think about a model where things die fast, because you don't want to be waiting for years.
It's got another 18 years to go. We're gonna.
So basically, yeah, we so you have different model organisms. Of course, mice are one of them, but they still live pretty long. They live 2.5 years on average, which is a long time. If the experiment didn't work, you'll know it in 2 years, which is a long time. So you can use other model organisms that have a life cycle that's much faster, and one of them is that tiny worm called C. elegans, and it's literally like 1 millimeter, like it's like that big, like tiny. And they do live actually on fruits. You can find some of them on fruits and things like that. So maybe, or like in the dirt and things like that. So I don't know if that was like the reason why I said that.
Because you're thinking about worms and working with worms all the time. It makes you.
Yeah, I was like, wash your fruit, get rid of those worms. I mean, it doesn't matter. You can always eat them.
So worms are not mammals, but their genes are similar enough for us to learn some things about aging. Is that?
So exactly. So that's like the idea is always we rely on the fact that we all evolutionary coming from the same ancestors, and we are more or less we are different because our shared common ancestor is either further away in between us. So of course, we and mice, we share one that's probably a couple of hundreds of millions, probably like a couple of dozens of millions years ago. But the worm is probably hundreds of millions years ago. So this is further away.
You have to go further back to find a common ancestor with a worm.
Yeah, so which makes it like less interesting compared to the mouse, but it's more interesting. There's still like a lot of common genes that we share, a lot of like common processes that are very similar.
Yeah,
and it's easier to take something that's like slightly simpler to learn things, and then try to move on something different that's more complex,
right?
And make your way like that to applying it to humans.
Yeah, so don't start with elephants.
Don't start with something too complicated.
Do you happen to have a perspective or opinion on that I think that statement where they say certain apes and humans share 99.4% of genes? What's your perspective on that?
Oh, is that accurate?
Yeah.
Yeah. So actually, the closest that to us is chimpanzees and bonobos. We share, I think, 98% of our genome. So when we say 98%, we mean sequence similarities. So if you take your DNA and the one from a chimpanzee, and you try to pair it, you'll have a lot of common things. You'll have some that are different, but you have like on average 98% similarities. But those 2%, as you can see, are like huge in terms of differences between us and the chimpanzees. So that's just like a scientific fact is like you also need like very little changes to make big differences. That's also what it means.
Yeah, because chimps are super strong, right? They're ripped.
Yeah, they're like way stronger than us.
So could conceivably in a sci-fi future, could we use some gene editing and inject it in me and give me chimp strength?
Well, I mean, in theory, everything is possible, but it's like.
But then I will also get some other behaviors as well.
No, but the thing is, like, you can, like, oftentimes things are not like just. It's not only one thing that makes one character. It's always like more complex. It's like multiple things. So if you want to be stronger, it's probably not only enough to make one change where it's like, oh, I'm gonna make slightly more of fibers.
Yeah.
But if you want to make more fibers, you need to have all the infrastructure behind that will be able to make everything. So I think like gene editing is interesting, very interesting in the context of. It's much easier to apply it for contexts where like you have diseases that involve like one mutation. And there are many diseases that involve only one mutation. And if you can correct that only mutation, then it's good enough to actually correct the disease. But if you have disease or applications that involve multiple, like something that's more complex and that involves multiple different components, that's going to be way harder to achieve.
Yeah, that makes sense. So if you have something where there's one mutation, you can target and edit that mutation pretty easily. But if you make some other genetic change in the hope of genetic engineering, it's more complex because it affects many parts of your body and your functioning. There's not like one switch for each thing. It's like a chemical formula, right?
Yeah, you need like multiple parts to make it work at the end of the day. So
and then it'll affect somewhere else too, right?
Yeah, but you can potentially, if you think about it, so you would know. So one of the big thing that came up with genome editing, and I think that's like the safe way to go and the most ethical, is actually to apply those on what we call a post-mitotic human. So you don't want to apply that on your cells that will be transmitted to the next generation. So as long as it's on the somatic, like your body, the rest of your body, if you want to change that, that's okay because it will die with you. Those changes will die with you, and you might want to avoid having those changes done like in your cells, that's like oocytes, the eggs, or the sperm that could be transmitted to the next generation because you want to spread. I mean,
yeah, you don't want this dumbass having chimp strong children in random cities around the U.S. Is that
we want to avoid? I think at this point, at this point right now, we want to avoid because we don't know what's the long term effects.
Yeah,
and it's better that things die like with the individuals rather than like being transmitted to the next generations forever.
Yeah, we don't want to accidentally change humanity into the future.
Exactly, we don't want to do permanent change to the humanity. That would be, even though actually there has been cases like a couple of years, like 2 years ago, I think, in China, where actually kids were born, 2 girls, I think, I remember well. So they did, whoever, like the person who did those studies, they actually changed actually the genome of those kids before, in the embryo. And that's actually potentially going to, those kids who are actually born would potentially, should be able to, transmit this change to the next generations. That was like a huge controversy of. I think that person. I don't know what happened, but I think like the Chinese government probably put that person in jail for a long time.
So that was an unauthorized.
That was not authorized, and that's probably like completely prohibited. And I mean, prohibited at least here for sure, and like in most of the countries, and even completely unethical at this point.
Yeah. Okay. So in general, in the gene scientist community, there's a good caution for not introducing permanent genetic changes that will move to future generations.
Correct.
That's good to know.
That's the agreement that was. I mean, that's something that people are sticking to, and that's like the most ethical thing to do right now.
Is there? I don't know the term for it, but I've read in some either news articles or whatever that there's a global kind of agreement on that where governments are not to allow certain scientists to do gene alterations, like you're saying, and then. I think at the time when I was reading that article, my friends were saying, well, freaking China, they're going to freaking do it. Even they're not going to listen to their government, or will their government even care to listen to the global world that's agreeing to this? Do you have any just random thoughts on that?
Is China an asshole?
No, but the thing is, like, I think it's hard to come up with, like, again, it's like a race, like worldwide. And, some countries might be less strict about some of those policies and allow those things to happen, but clearly in this case, like even China was a big no.
What was the change in those two girls?
So I think it's, if I remember well, it's one gene that's involved in HIV transmission. So I was saying if I believe it's a gene that's on T cells, that allows HIV to enter the cell, and if I remember well, I think the mother was HIV positive, and the idea was to change the genome of those kids so they would not be able to get HIV.
Oh, whoa! So they're attempting for a good change. It was good intentions, but it's the unknown future that's the scary part.
Yeah, but. So it's good intentions, always good intentions. Like,
that's
just like Terminator.
That's how you become an evil mad scientist.
Like I love to say, like, I mean, it's like the road to hell is paved with good intentions. Yes, that's how like things,
Okay, so the dude was trying to HIV proof these kids and like trying to give them built-in genetic protection against HIV.
Yeah, I mean, and that's why actually, so that it's based on the fact that, we know some people are actually resistant to HIV, and a lot of them are like naturally have that mutation. And that's how we know that's, how the virus gets in, and like, it's one of the ways of the virus to get in. So those people who actually have that mutation exist, but no one has made that mutation in a lab and then
until that guy
have a kids come from that.
Yeah.
For your published paper, how long ago did the research start on that, and where was the meat? How long was the meat of it? Like the really intensive time that you spent on it?
I would say so. That particular research took a long time because it went back and forth between different reviewers trying to different. So we try to get it in really high impact journals, like really like some that have like really high impact factors journals, and so
you don't want to get published in a journal that the brain scientists are not reading.
Also like you tend to like try to shoot for the higher the most publicized journals, so you can actually spread the word easier, but also you get more attention because if you select in those journals, that means your research is very interesting. But it went back and forth like between the editor and then the lab for making the changes and like that. So it took a long time. So we ended up like changing the not even publishing was first submitted. So the journal is a different one. So that's, I think, the most painful part
is getting published.
Yes, I think like that can take like a long time, and it takes literally like like it took probably a year and a half to go back and forth, almost 2 years actually. And it's a painful process.
Plus, you had to work on mice for their 2 years of lifespan, right? Or shorter lifespans with brain cancer.
Well, yeah, way shorter for brain cancer, but no, the thing is like you end up like having to so you'll get like a set of reviewers asking you to do those experiments, or like completely challenging like your results and telling you no, that you should do everything now, but with this different mouse. And you're like, okay, it's been like 2 years of work, or like 3 years of work. Like we're not going to do another 3 years because, or like, you know, you can always like challenge, or like this is not the right model for this. And things like that. So it does take. That's the most painful painful part. Is like.
So you grew this beard while you were waiting for the peer review.
Yeah, see.
So waiting on the peer review or getting published was like a year and a half, and then how much time was actual research?
So the research like would take also like 2 to 3 years for some. I mean, it can take like long. It really depends. That's the thing. It's probably like half of that time. So you still do research in the meantime, like when you get peer reviewed, and then you just try to anticipate what you can do, or what was going to be asked from the reviewers.
So Milos is already working on more future stuff.
Yeah, what's the future stuff you're working on now?
Oh, you can't tell us. His competitors are gonna.
Gonna
scoop his shit.
Yeah, I mean, scoop. Definitely exploring like different cancers. There's like many other interesting cancers to. Brain cancers.
There's a lot of work in the cancer biz.
What?
There's a lot of work available in the cancer business.
Yeah, there is a lot.
Yeah.
Do you think 10 years ago, if you saw yourself, if the person 10 years ago saw you now, do you think they would have anticipated what you're doing now?
Maybe not as translational as what I had. So 10 years ago, I was doing things that were more basic research, so more fundamental, trying to understand how things work at a very basic level. Now what I do is very translational. And
Stephen Hawking's?
Say again?
Stephen Hawking's? Or what's Hawking's work? You said you were trying to understand Hawking's work at the basic level?
Oh, no.
How things work. Oh, okay. You said
how things work. Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, I was mostly like trying to understand like the very basic biology of
I see, yeah.
The processes and like what naturally occurs, and testing those different things. But now it's very, very translational. So it's pretty much like problem solving. It's a very different approach. Basic biology is more like you have a question or a hypothesis, and you test it, and then you just like keep following, unwinding that story, and you don't know where you're going to end oftentimes. But bioengineering, it's kind of a different approach, where it's like, this is where I want to go, this is what I want to achieve, like in terms of like product, and what are the tools that I have. So it's more like a problem solving thing, rather than like basic biology, where it's just like asking questions and trying to understand the processes, and it can bring you like in another direction, or like completely different from where you started. But it's just a different way of understanding.
Do you think people in your shoes, the majority of them start out thinking they want to cure cancer, or they have a path that they're looking to go and do that research? Or did you end up where you are kind of through the path of life? Or did you have that vision to go that whole way?
I mean, I had an strong interest in usually in those questions. So I thought it was just great. I found like a good fit in terms of lab and like topic. I think a lot of people, some people have like clear vision of like what they want to work on, but you never know exactly what you are going to work on. I mean, it's just like maybe a big picture of I'm interested in this, but then when you think about it, there's like so many different tools in that toolbox that you can use or develop. It's like it's very hard to know what you're going to work exactly on.
You can only take whatever opportunities present themselves, right?
Yeah, but you can also make them happen, and that's if you think about, I know, for example, like this lab is working on has this really cool tool, but I'm interested in using that tool for applying for that other disease.
Yeah,
I think that's you make it happen, and I think that's great.
Oh yeah,
a lot of things like that. So that was like one of my interests, was like applying using those tools to apply it for brain disorders, just like in general brain diseases, not only restricted to cancer, but anything that has to do with the brain. So we have like that lab has like the lab I'm in at UCSF in one of the Liem's lab. Mm-hmm. So we have like great tools for achieving those goals.
So you gravitated towards this.
Yeah.
I like that answer because I guess I want to feel slightly, what's the word I'm looking for? More human, in the sense of when I look at certain scientists or certain people that accomplish some big projects or businesses, I kind of think that they have their life together and they know the path that they want to go and they get there. But then so many times, especially having these interviews, I see how people don't have that path in mind and get there a little bit by luck, a lot of hard work. But that's just, I guess, the way, my perspective of your answer. Like it's interesting where I started out. For me, I started out with a computer networks degree, but I'm in programming. If I could go back in time, I wish I would have taken a computer science degree or a programming degree instead of a computer networks, even though they're kind of a similar ballpark because it is computers. But in the beginning of my career, it was a little bit harder to get certain jobs when they said, why do you have a computer networks degree, but you're looking for a software engineering job? So I think it's interesting to hear from your level, someone you got a PhD, you've published a paper now, but your path wasn't exactly clear even 10 years ago. So I think that's I like that message a lot.
No, I'm gonna credit you for wanting to cure brain cancer. I'm proud to know a guy that is out there trying to cure brain cancer.
Yeah, hopefully. Yeah, well, we'll see how things go in the future. But I think that would be, that's pretty exciting. And this is one of the, as I said, like translational research is somewhat like, to me, like very exciting, just because you can see the output and the translation, like how things could work in the clinic. Mm-hmm. So you're very, very close to that, and that's like very exciting.
Do you happen to have any regrets or looking back on the research now, what you would have done differently?
In what part?
Just the path to get to the answers that you wanted. Do you see now that there could have been shortcuts?
Oh, well, but that's like, that's part of the science.
Yeah,
like you do like probably 95% of what you're going to do is going to fail. And that's what allows you to make it work at the end of the day.
So you wish you had engineered the exact correct thing on the first shot.
Yeah.
I know my question's kind of silly, but I know as a programmer, I build certain things, and I know after seeing the final product, I'm like, damn it, I could have done that. But I think it's stories. I'm trying to just, there's stories when you go through that, there's usually stories. So that's kind of what I'm asking about.
No, exactly. I mean, like if you take, let's say, the end product here, the paper, the way it is, I'm sure within a year or like less than a year, you could recap, or like maybe a couple of months, you could do everything that's in there. Mm. But it's just like, the process is exploratory process, and you never know how things are going to unwind. So that's why it takes way longer than expected. I mean, way longer than like the final product is. It's always like, I always find it like not funny, but kind of this, when you read those papers and you're like, wow, like I can do everything right now.
That's easy.
But it did take like 5 years to get to that point.
Yeah, it's easy if somebody gives you the recipe and answer book.
I mean, that's the thing is like if I give you a puzzle and I give you the answer, well, it's easy.
Yeah.
but yeah, if I ask you to solve the puzzle, it'll take you a long time. But when you solve it, then it's like, oh, okay, yeah, I know how to solve it.
So,
5 minutes, 2 seconds.
So gene bioengineering is just like Sudoku. If you turn to the back and you have the answers, then it's easy.
What were some of the challenging times or events during this research for you?
I mean, it's
very short lunch breaks.
The challenge is probably like just
hot pockets.
Wearing lab coats.
Just
spilling coffee on the lab coat.
Lower. Well, no coffee. No coffee in the lab. It's not.
Okay.
No food, no drinks, nothing in the lab.
Is it like clean roomish, like where like when they build?
Yes, I mean you wear a coat, you wear.
Yeah, you don't want to accidentally give the mice some Monster Energy drink and have them all jacked up on Powerade.
No, we don't. Yeah, we like you're not supposed to have any food or drinks in the lab, or just by safety, and you don't want. Yeah, we avoid all of that. Not allowed.
Gotcha. I think jumping back to the question was, what challenges did you encounter during this research?
I think it's just like work-wise, it's like a big load of work, and it's a lot of like weekends on late nights, things like that. You just like get things done.
Yeah, mouse cancer doesn't rest on Saturdays.
No, they don't. Yeah, it's science is just like very intense in that sense, because especially if you have a project or something that you want to get done, it only relies on you, right? So if you don't move forward, nothing's going to move forward. And a lot of this, the entire project that you're building is what's going to be your groundwork for going to the next level. Mm-hmm. And if you don't get it done, you're not going anywhere with your career and things like that.
So I have a question from early on. You mentioned something about your body rejecting foreign. So what I think of is like if you get a kidney replaced, if you stick another kidney in there, if it's not the right blood type or it doesn't match, your body will reject that kidney, right? So that's a natural reaction. But my thought was in the caveman days, you're not going to wake up with an accidental organ. So what is the actual thing that your body is most likely defending it? So in a caveman context, what would your body reject as a foreign object?
I mean, so when I meant foreign object, I meant like just in general intruders like viruses, bacteria, fungi, or any infections that you can have. So your body, that's how your body, your immune system works, is it educates itself, recognizing things that are self. Yeah. That's yourself, and anything else that's not yourself is an intruder and needs to be killed. Okay. And that works great for if you think about like attacking viruses or cleaning up infected cells from viruses, also like bacteria and things like that. The opposite is autoimmunity. If you think about autoimmunity, is when your body now starts attacking yourself. Yeah. Because it's not recognizing, it's not capable anymore to make a difference. That's actually that's still you. Just like start attacking yourself, and that's like a big.
It's a problem.
A big issue for like your immune system when it starts actually not being able to know that it's itself.
Yeah. So then your body is freaking out over things that it shouldn't be. It's reacting and defending against things that are natural and should be there.
Yeah, I mean, like, for example, like if you think about brain autoimmunity, I mean, like multiple sclerosis and things like that, those are like diseases where, or like type 1 diabetes, where it's actually your immune systems are attacking organs from yourself while it shouldn't.
Yeah. Interesting. Thank you.
Did you happen to have a champagne moment when when your paper was fully published?
Well, we had like my wife and I went for dinner for celebration on Friday night, so that was a nice celebratory moment. But it like I have to say, like there's like so many stages in the process where, like, you know, you get the acceptance like way before, but then you still have like some proofs to do in the meantime and things like that. So yeah, I think it just at the end of the day, it kind of dilutes out a little bit. The celebration is not like just like one moment where like, oh yeah, everything like came together. But yeah, it's just it's great. It's just,
oh yeah, I bet
you can celebrate every single step. It's fine.
yeah.
You knew it was coming.
Champagne every other day.
Actually, yeah. Was there a moment where you knew it was there? Meaning, was there a moment where you tested a mouse, and then you actually were able to kill that brain cancer, and then maybe the second time it didn't work, and then the third and fourth time did? But was there a moment for you? Do you remember that moment where you're like, you think you have the answer? This is the golden moment.
This
for
shit
you.
works.
Yeah.
So you have this. Luckily things like worked, which is like great, because like when you repeat things, that's, you know, the core of like science is, you know, it's only one time it should work. It should work 99.9% of the times.
Yeah, every time.
95% of the times, like what you think is like good enough. So reproducibility is key, right? Like you don't want like to publish something that's, you know, only you can make it work and nobody else can make it work. So that's not
magic.
the point of science. Or like I do it here, but someone does it like on the other side of the world and it doesn't work there. It's like, so there's something wrong here. But no, like things were like went pretty smooth, and the hypothesis was right. So that was like pretty exciting to see, like, you know, happening over and over again.
How did that hypothesis kind of evolve with you? As in, were you already pretty deep into brain cancer research to come up with the hypothesis that you could build a sniper gun, or how did that work?
So for me, like the way I address this, so what I'm interested in is just like building general tools for brain specific disorders, and at that point, like when I had some great tools that were working, that I felt like would be very useful, I decided to use that on a cancer model, because I thought a cancer model would be a great application for those tools. And that's how I end up like testing in a cancer, like in a brain cancer model.
Whoa. So you're building a tool first, and then you figured out that tool was good for killing brain cancer?
So it was like one of the easiest way of demonstrating that the tool is actually working.
Oh.
In terms of approach.
Is it almost, maybe this is a bad analogy, or totally correct me if I'm wrong. So is it like CRISPR itself is as a technology or tool, so you're building like sort of a different type of CRISPR, but this,
no, he's using a different editing tool that can identify it's in the brain.
So basically like
we're lost.
No, so the thing is like you can think about like, oh, if you come up with like a hammer, you know, you build a tool, right? But like you need to find like what you're gonna make it used for.
Yeah.
And how do you test that that's actually the hammer works? You need to, you know, think about applications, like in which context you want it to to test it. And there are many ways. So let's say like what I'm doing, and like all of my projects are involving is just like I'm interested in building tools that I can instruct cells when they get in the brain to do a specific task. And one of them which I thought would be an easy way to actually demonstrate that my cells are capable of being instructed to do the task specifically in the brain, is by having them kill a cancer. And that's like an easier application of the technology that I built compared to other diseases that you could think about that are also in the brain that are more complex and harder to actually apply for at this point. So I'm still like improving those tools so I can do other things later, other diseases.
So is the analogy kind of correct in saying like CRISPR is like a Phillips head screwdriver and yours is a flathead screwdriver? Is that the tool?
It's a different type. Yeah, it's like they're all like tools, but like what you're gonna use them for is an application, and that demonstrates that tool is actually working or is useful for.
So is your future research all going to be potentially just figuring out what this Phillips head screwdriver that you built is like capable of doing? Like, meaning, are you going to target, I don't know, some other cancer that's in usually the heart and whatnot, heart or lungs?
That's one of the possibilities. Yeah, that's like definitely, because I mean, the thing is like, this is like a huge field of like applications and a lot of like, so the core principles are now set. That idea that now you can like use this for recognizing an environment such as an organ and doing a specific task. But yeah, like now, like you can think how you can use that modular approach for many different applications.
Well,
and that's and in the future, that's definitely something like I'm interested in as an independent investigator to do that in my own lab. And
dude, if you can cure lung cancer, we can all start smoking cigarettes again, and then we can be cooler.
Milos is not having
Not
that.
down with it.
I don't think you should think about it like as a lot for doing things that are not good for you.
I'm saying people want to smoke. If you can cure lung cancer, you could probably charge them at least a couple $100 per lung.
It's more expensive than that, unfortunately.
Is that Nikola Tesla on your mug?
It is.
So what is a gene editing biologist doing with a electrical dude on his mug?
Oh, he's of Serbian descent. I mean, like I'm Serbian too, so my parents are Serbian. So
gotcha.
So he's a very famous
hometown hero.
What?
Hometown hero.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah. So that's why I have. I mean, I think he's a very interesting character who was like very interesting ideas and who did not get popularity he should have got back then. Or like he like history forgot about him for a little while, and also like shows you that like you can do great science, but it's not only about science. There's like a lot of other things that are involved. It's like there's egos, other egos, and
business.
Yeah, it's kind of very interesting in business. Yeah, business is a big part of it.
Yeah, we don't have any famous Vietnamese scientists, do we?
Not that I know of.
Yeah, I'm half Irish. I don't even know if there's any famous Irish.
Oh, there are many.
Yeah, I'm gonna go look them up now. I gotta find one Vietnamese scientist and one Irish. I know there was one Vietnamese NFL football player. But it was probably a while ago now.
I think it was Dat Nguyen, if I remember the name correctly.
Yes.
Are you?
I mean, like, we have a lot of basketball players in the NBA.
Oh yeah, yeah.
A lot.
Is your last? Are you Greek? Is your last name Greek?
No,
Serbian.
It's Serbian.
Serbian. Okay. Is Milos a common Serbian name?
Yes, it's actually very common. It's pronounced Milos.
Milos.
Oh.
Okay, so we had a party at our house last night, and like, what do you guys got to do tomorrow? Like, we got to get up early, and we're gonna have a conversation with Milos, And like, oh, Milos, he's Greek, right? I'm like, well, I don't know. I mean, maybe. I'm like, well, that's a Greek name. I'm like, well, yeah, okay. But I'm just saying I don't know if the guy's Greek or not. And like it was probably a good 15 minutes. People were trying to convince us that you were Greek based on your name.
And I was getting a hard time. People are like, "You're interviewing someone tomorrow, and you don't even know what nationality or background he is." I'm like, I'm just asking him about his career, not about his parents.
His genetic regional heritage.
No, I mean, like, there's an island called Milos in Greece.
Yeah,
that's yeah.
But not Milos.
No. Well, I mean, on top of that, I'm French. I was born and raised in France, so it's not like I mean, it makes it even more complex story.
So that means we have to get you a Thomas Piketty mug, also. He's like the most famous economist right now. Economists love Thomas Piketty.
Okay,
I'm probably saying it wrong because I'm not French.
Oh, Thomas Piketty, yeah.
Yeah, super famous.
You were born in France. What age were you when you came to the U.S.?
Oh, did we cut out? How?
So the first time I came in the U.S. was 2010. So I was 23.
Oh, so we met you pretty much when you were first in the U.S. then.
Yeah, like yeah, pretty much. It was I was 2 years in. Yeah.
Fresh off the boat.
Hopefully I was a good ambassador of American lifestyle and personality. Hopefully I wasn't a jerk.
Yeah, that's why I left.
Damn it. Sorry. How did you come to America on like a research visa, student visa, work visa?
Yeah, it was like a research. It's for a research visa, like as a visitor exchange program.
Oh, and if I remember correctly, back then I think you were video calling with your girlfriend then or wife.
I was like, yeah, that was like my ex. Yeah, like.
Okay. Oh, sorry. I don't want to bring up old stuff. Sorry.
You remember that chick with the giant knockers? We're getting him in trouble right now.
With the
like those long distance relationships.
So tell me about the research visa and the path. So I'm on for my wife. She has the K1 visa, which is a fiance visa, and a lot of online people on Reddit. There's like an immigration thread, and they talk about the steps of getting your paperwork for immigration and whatnot. And then some people will say they're trying to go on a work visa or a research visa. And then other people that don't even have any of that, they'll come in and say, hey, what's the easiest way to get to America? And then other people will ask the routes for each one. So in your case, for the research visa, how was that and what was involved?
So, I mean, like that's, you need to find a sponsor. That's like always the same story. We have, I mean, the good thing is like for research, I think there's like no limitations as of how many visa can be issued compared to private institutions where like basically, I mean, like companies where like, I think like there's for H1Bs, I guess like there's like X number of H1Bs that are allowed per year. So that's like a really hard thing. But no, for like research, I think it's like that's one of the great things. It's pretty like it's not easy. It's just like I would say probably less complicated, and it's like a great opportunity to like learn, go study. I mean, not study abroad, but do science abroad and explore, be in big labs, famous labs, and things like that.
Did you have your PhD prior to that? Prior to getting
no, not at that time.
What degree did you have at that time?
I was like at a master level. So you basically that was part of the program where they ask us to you can go abroad and like study. I mean, not study, but like do internship of a couple of months in a lab, so you can get experience of what research is hands on, and we usually don't have any restrictions for where you can actually go, as long as the subject is interesting enough and you can afford to go wherever you want to go.
So if the U.S. is trying to cure brain cancer, we can bring over as many Europeans as we like.
Yeah, there's like a lot of well, that's the thing is like I think the US is a great place for opportunities like that, and you can like get talents from the entire world, and give them a chance to
contribute to the research. Yeah,
I think that's like a great way of thinking about it.
From your perspective on that, is there, if someone were to think, why didn't you do that in France? Is it the opportunities, that the research facilities, the culture here in America?
I think like initially I was very interested in like going like in an English speaking country or like the US, just because as an experience, but also a lot of the high impact research is done like in the US. A lot of it's like the US is definitely one of the major hub for like science in general, and Europe has like couple of good places, but it's not the same as the US. So in terms of like funding and how much there is, it's way better than what you have in Europe. France has like, I think like over the last couple of years, investment in research has declined or like stagnated, while like the inflation kept going up. So at the end of the day, like it didn't really improve much. And I think it's if you like, I remember so Emmanuelle Charpentier, so she her and Jennifer Doudna, they co-shared the Nobel Prize for CRISPR-Cas9 discovery, like last year. And I remember like Emmanuelle Charpentier saying that she had to leave France because she could not do the research she wanted, because France will not fund her research. And so she ended up going in other places in Europe or like in the world, just because she could not do the research she wanted. Nobody wanted to fund someone to study weird things about how bacteria defend themselves. Nobody was interested. Like, and that's oftentimes like, I think a big mistakes from a lot of like maybe governments or like people who don't understand science, because science is just like, you cannot request, science like takes forever. Like when I say forever, it's like it takes years. A lot, it like takes years, but also like decades probably before you see something come out.
Yeah.
And you don't necessarily need to look for something to come out, because science is about understanding the unknown. And Emmanuelle Charpentier and Jennifer Doudna, they're studying how bacteria defend themselves against viruses, which is something like you can think about like, okay, but why is that important to any of us here?
Right.
Like, just when you start with that, like, it's true. Like, how could you expect that this actually led to the discovery of CRISPR-Cas9, who actually allows you now to do genome editing and change, like, it literally changed the face of the, like, how science is. It's like definitely a revolution in research in biology. So no one would have expected such a thing. Same as other Nobel Prizes who were studying jellyfish and how jellyfish, has those different fluorescent proteins. And actually, that discovery made a huge impact in research, because it allowed researchers to now tag proteins with like different colors and see now in the cell where those proteins are. So a lot of like groundbreakings are not coming from the engineering part. They're coming about the basic biology. That's where you make the biggest discoveries, and then you can use that for other applications. But at the end of the day, if you don't have those, because you can take like, so nature has taken billions of years, not billions, but like hundreds of millions of years to come up with a solution, or like things evolved, got better and things like that. It's hard to compete with nature in the lab over like 5 years and create something like, I want to invent something different. So there's a lot of like things that we can take from nature that, have been perfected or like improved over the last millions of years that you will never be able to like come out of the blue and make in the lab.
Yeah, because bacteria have been around for so long.
And yeah, they've been there for the beginning of times.
Yeah, so you wouldn't, looking at the research at the beginning, you wouldn't say, well, why do I care about how bacteria defend themselves? We're not trying to help bacteria. That would be the logical view on that.
But you can do the other way. So the way you can spin it always is, okay, let's learn how they defend themselves so we can attack them better.
Yeah.
Let's find weaknesses. Because that's actually how probably they solved. So whenever you write a grant, you always like kind of are constrained by like you cannot just say like, I'm interested in understanding how things work just for the sake of understanding it, which is actually like how things should be. Right. But you always like if you want to get the money, you need to tell like why it's important. And I think like probably a way of selling that project was probably initially by saying like by understanding how they defend themselves, now we can find the Achilles how do you call like what's the English word, like those like weak points of like their defense, so now you can maybe take advantage of that to kill them better now.
Right, because in general we don't want too much bacteria.
No, you want to avoid that, especially in a hospital.
Oh yeah, that's terrible. If you could kill all the bacteria in hospitals, that would save a lot of lives.
Where do you just?
But they evolve to actually survive.
Yeah.
So that's why that's one I think a big issue for the future is a lot of our antibiotics are like slowly not working anymore. Yeah. There are a couple of strains now that are appearing that are actually resistant to multiple of the classic antibiotics.
So we need new ways to kill bacteria.
Yeah, and antibiotics are like not something that people are big pharma companies are interested in developing anymore. So it costs a lot of money. It's
What's your thoughts on, or if you haven't thought of it, what's your theory on how the research visas in America can impact America's future? Like, if America's having all this research and they're able to fund it all, is America the one that's going to benefit directly, or do some of these published papers actually get spread out worldwide so it's not a direct benefit for America per se?
I think like the way, so you can think about like two things. Like one is the patent. So a lot of like the work that's actually in that paper is patented now.
Is it patented by the university or by your team, or how does that work out?
So it's usually the university who initiates. I mean, you request it, and then there's a patent office that takes care of those things, and you get it patented at the end of the day. So that's how you have the IP, and all of this for potential commercialization at the end of the day. And that's why it was a big fight actually between UC Berkeley and MIT over the CRISPR-Cas9 patents. Who discovered it first? But that's a different thing. It's like the universities have those.
Wait, so who got the credit for that
property?
Who got the credit? Who got the credit for CRISPR?
I end up like being MIT.
Okay, interesting.
So I just like the different rules, like who's the first one who. By the end of the day, you see like the ones who were credited for the discovery were not MIT, were actually Jennifer Doudna at UC Berkeley and Emmanuel Charpentier.
So Berkeley should have got it.
Well, I mean, there's a law, and like there was like a judgment, and they had like I think like a lot had to do with, and this is where like I think a lot of universities are not capitalizing necessarily very well on discoveries.
Yeah,
and I think like one of the things where who's the first one who files the patent is what counts.
Yeah.
So if you can expedite the filing of the patents by adding extra money, and that makes it faster. But whoever does that gets the credit. So I think that was the ruling at the end of the day. And then the law changed since then. I mean, like I read a little bit of it. I'm not very familiar with all the details, but I think it's very interesting. So you have like, so that's one thing, how like you can monetize the discovery funded by the US, money and within the US. The other way you can like think about it is you also have the knowledge that's now in the US. It's like, I mean, knowledge is like huge. It's like knowing all these techniques.
Yeah, at the very least, Milos, the expert, is here in San Francisco.
Yeah, totally.
So in general,
because it's like,
no, go ahead.
No, I mean, it's just like it's one way of actually holding or like, you know, benefiting. So being at the cutting edge makes you see the next step before the rest of the world.
Yep.
So whenever like something comes out, it always comes out like 2 years after the original discovery, right? Like the papers. So like we moved on from that part like already long ago, and we're already like in something different right now, like preparing like the next step. But the world already sees that now, so we already always have like a couple of years
head start.
Advance.
I have such a pessimistic view on like maybe either the future of America or some of the things that the government does wrong here in America. So to hear this, that so much funding is going into research and getting these visas, that sounds like probably a fantastic thing, a smart thing, I think, that America's doing. So it's great to hear this.
Yeah. No, that's like, I mean, I think like that's a great way of, I mean, you can think about like different ways of recruiting talents and people who are knowledgeable of something, and you know, making things easier for sharing people and like getting people move from a country from another, just, you know, sharing their experience, or like, you know, adding their little brick to the big picture is always like, I mean,
yeah, working in software engineering, I think I see certain parallels in it. If I get a chance to tell upper management or the owner of a company to say, hey, we should probably try to get 4 hours a week of our development team to allow them to work on whatever they want. Anything, it doesn't have to be related on the software at work. They can work on any software, anything, even hardware. The reason why I say this is because at previous places where I've worked, we're able to squeeze out free time as programmers. We didn't tell the manager that we were doing it, but almost 95% of every project that we did on our free time ended up saving hours and hours. We're building tools on our free time at work. Well, free, how would you say it? Time from the company, but they didn't.
Stolen time.
But 95% of those projects were built or ended up saving way more time once we implemented it in production. And so I actually go as far as to try to tell a company, if you can allocate 8 hours a week, if they approve my 4 hours a week, then my next step is to get 8 hours a week, to say, allow the programming team 8 hours a week to do whatever they want. And you will see benefits from this development time. But it's hard to pitch that, because they're saying we're losing 4 hours a week. We're losing 8 hours a week times 4 developers, 8 developers, 12 for developers. It's a hard pitch.
We're paying you to work. We're not paying you to play video games.
Yeah. And some of these, I mean, we're prototyping new tools that it's pretty amazing when we build a prototype tool and we actually say to the manager, hey, we built this, you want to implement? And every single time they're like, whoa, how many hours is that going to save us for the future? Every week we're going to save that? And they're like, yeah, implement that now. But it's so hard on the beginning side to say, hey, can we get 4 hours a week? Can we get 8 hours a week? Usually it's a hard battle. So anyways, I think of America putting the money in research is in that way, that same analogy.
It is a long-term investment. It's something that's, it's not necessarily a long-term investment, because you can see like how this can benefit, but it is, something to think in a bigger context, and it's worth like putting that money, because you're investing in the future.
Exactly.
And you're setting yourself for success as a country. And it is very important to, it's not because you don't see like the product like right away, that means like there's not such a thing. There's like a lot of things going in the background and improvements that are being made and advances that, you know, will make the country better. I mean,
yeah, totally. I think with yours, at least doing gene editing, brain cancer related stuff, that seems like you could see the light at the end, the end of the tunnel, what it's going to help. When I'm pitching, let me have 4 or 8 hours. I have nothing to tell the management like, hey, we're going to build this. I'm just telling them, can we have 8 hours and we might build something. So it's a tough pitch, but
so you got to get better at selling your research
and writing
proposals.
Yeah. All right. Is there any topics we want to talk about? We probably got about a little bit over a half hour before I jump into the final questions. I just have like 5 or 6 questions that I ask at the end. Do you have any questions for us? Anything or any questions?
Anything you want to talk about?
Maybe like what you guys learned from the bar experience that you tried to open in San Diego?
For me, I think to me the most interesting, but it's not a positive story, I guess, per se. Prior to opening the cafe, Emmett and I interviewed or asked a lot of business owners. I think there's coffee shop owners, hair salon owners, Thai restaurant owners, asked their advice, like, can you give us advice on how to open up a cafe? What advice do you have to minimize costs? What advice do you have to control or deal with employees? What advice do you have for dealing with taxes, accounting? What advice do you have? And my conclusion out of doing all that was, holy shit, none of these people know what they're fucking doing. It was mind blowing to me. Some of these companies, like some of the restaurants was like a $500,000 restaurant, like the amount of money that they put in. I'm just shaking my head. Like, you spent 4 years on this, you spent $500,000 and you don't have any decent advice. Like, what the fuck? Like, so the answer is, what I learned from that is people are more lucky than good. That's what I learned out of that.
Yeah, we tried to make a coffee shop down in San Diego years ago, and it turned out people wanted lunch more than coffee in that location. So we kind of converted to, you know, lunch and sandwiches and stuff. But to play off what Lim's saying is, we tried to research our way into, you know, how do we make the best business? How do we set ourselves up for success? And in the restaurant business, in the coffee shop and restaurant business, it's a lot of hit and miss, and a lot of them miss. You know, there's a lot more misses than hits. They disappear and then you don't see them. So it's frustrating to go to the successes and say, you know, what can we learn from you? And then there's not a lot to learn. So, I mean, over the years now, maybe it's fair to say that a lot of restaurants and a lot of those small businesses are people with a lot of money kind of doing a hobby more than a business. Because if you have a big budget, then you can buy your way through a lot of challenges, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, we see some restaurants that are like, how can you possibly be making enough money? Like, this doesn't add up as a business. This is a beautiful, awesome restaurant, but you know, it just doesn't, $12 for this plate ain't going to cover all this, right? So sometimes you see that. And
for a huge compliment to Emmett on his dealing with the finances and planning out the business, and his business plan actually was really good. Whereas I feel like any other business plan that I've ever seen, there's gaping holes in the financial planning, the planning on the details, where he had it down to the price of one single cup. That's how detailed the business plan was, where he's looking at, okay, if I got to buy 500 cups at $1 each, it's going to change for his accounting background, $1.50 a cup, and $1 is big change. But in most companies where most owners that have $500,000, they don't think about that 50 cents. But also, when you're talking about that 50 cent difference, it's also the big things that Emmett was looking at. when you go rent a business,
retail space, you're looking at, is it $2,000 a month? I mean, back then was probably $1,500 to $2,000 a month. It's probably gone up to $3,000, but you're looking at things where, okay, this other spot, it's $4,000. What does it offer? This spot has $3,000 a month. What does it offer? Where can we carve big expenses? And Emmett did an amazing job of looking at that stuff. Like if you're able to, find a spot that has a pre-built kitchen and you know you're going to be using a kitchen, that could shave $50,000 off the opening costs. If build out,
so things like that. Emmett, I mean, he brought. You're looking at what some people spend $250,000 to open, and he brought it down. I think it was I forget if it was 17,000. It was some ridiculous.
We definitely were trying to operate on a shoestring budget. Just because we weren't rich, so we were trying to do it in a very efficient way. And that was the driver of all that activity was, it's expensive to open a business in the U.S., especially a food business, because there's a lot of regulation, a lot of health department stuff, and we tried to do everything by the rules. And if you do everything right and do all your planning, you still have to get lucky to make it. And in the end, we ran into some bad luck that it wasn't worth fighting through. Yeah.
I think I do remember, like, I was like, the access to the bathroom could not go through the kitchen.
Yeah.
Like
there was like competing regulatory bodies that we had to follow rules from OSHA, the health department, the city. And so if you take this maze of regulations and you go, okay, then the only solution is this, but it doesn't work for this department or whatever. Another issue we had was, there's the health department, and then there's the food establishment waste division, which regulates what goes down your drain. So kind of like a sewer department. And so they're like, you can't put all these coffee grounds down the drain. Like, well, what if I dump them in the trash first and then wash the coffee stuff? Like, that's fine. And the health department comes over and goes, oh, you can't wash all these coffee grounds down the drain. Like, well, but the food establishment wastewater division said I could just dump them in this trash can here. And in the end, it was like, well, then you need a grease trap. Like, well, grease trap, you told me I can't cook here, and I don't have anything that fries with grease. Why are you making me put in a grease trap? Like, it's a regulation. And it was this huge back and forth of trying to follow all the rules, and it just became impossible. So in the end, the health department of San Diego, I will vilify, and I will forever blame them for trying to require us to put in a $10,000 grease trap. Like, it was like, hey, go bust up the concrete in the back and install this in the sewage line. And like, well, I mean, if you really want us to have a grease trap, like, there's a $500 grease trap that we can put right under our sink. Because if everything is getting washed at the sink, it can catch it right out of the sink. Why can't I do that? And it's just this insane bureaucracy that I think they've really lost sight of. The goal should be to make food establishments safe for the public. But I think they've lost sight of the goal. It's just become this weird, oppressive regulatory body that's out to just smash small business. Like, at the very least, you should be supportive, not oppressive. So it's a very weird thing to experience that from that perspective.
Yeah, you would imagine like you would have a more cohesive, set of rules that kind of merge all of the different departments.
Yeah,
and make it easy for like any newcomer. I mean, you don't need to because it sounds like you all pretty much need have like a PhD in like all of this to be able to all the different things to make it successful, because it's it was
a squeeze from many different directions. For example, when you open, there's like an opening inspection, and the health department charges you, I think it's something like $2,000 to come do the opening inspection. It's like, well, you're requiring me to do this, and now I got to pay you to do this. I got to pay you to come give me a hard time. Okay, I'll follow that rule. But if you paid like an extra $1,000, they'll come out the week before and do a pre-inspection and tell you what's going to come up on the inspection. I'm like, okay, I'll make that investment. Let's pay to have them come out first, and then I can knock out any things they might give me a hard time for. So they gave me a list. We fixed and corrected and upgraded to their specs, and then they come for the real inspection and they give me a whole new list. I'm like, well, what did I pay for the other one for? Like, you told me those were the things I needed to fix, and now you're giving me more, additional things to fix. Why wasn't that on the previous? So just everywhere you turn is this weird insanity of almost obstacle building. It's like, you're not helping us make safe food for people. You're just crushing small business. So it was that in the end, I think, was a large part of what contributed to the demise of that cafe.
Yeah, it was tough when we closed up shop. It was emotional because of the amount of effort that we put in. Emmett had that business plan building for probably 4 years.
A couple of years, yeah.
And then the effort to go and find the spot, the effort to build it out, and it was emotional to close it down. Know that we took a amount of cash as debt, or I guess as debt, and we had to work it off in the next few years. But I mean, if you at what was that, 2012? If you talked to Liem of 2012 and said, hey, in 2021, you're going to be pretty happy with the amount of cryptocurrency that you got. You're going to be pretty happy with a career path that you that you went as a software engineer, and you jumped up salary. You jumped into a decent salary. And then this is also how much money you're going to have in your bank account. And then you're going to have 2 cars paid off. I wouldn't have believed you back in 2012. There was no way. So, in essence, things have worked out pretty well, even though with the bad news of the cafe.
And that was,
I guess that was like an experience you learned from.
Oh, definitely.
It just, it's probably was worth trying, and like that led you to where you are now, no matter what.
Yeah, it was definitely one of those things, like, you got to do it, just because if you don't do it, then you spend your life regretting not having tried. That's exactly how I would classify it. Like, I don't regret doing it at all. I would never try to open another restaurant unless somebody else had a ton of money. They wanted me to open a restaurant for them. But
I would think it's easier in Vegas then.
Yeah, we're currently in Vegas.
Yeah, would that be easier? Are the regulations less strict, or like?
I don't think so. I mean, the health department here is notoriously difficult also.
Okay.
Partially because there used to be a lot of buffets in Vegas, so that it was a heightened concern about foodborne illnesses with the buffets. So, hard to say without walking down that road, but I don't know that it would be remarkably different. Because in the end, Las Vegas isn't that far from California, so a lot of the culture and institutions and regulations we kind of model after, the early Californian, city. It's hard to find somebody who was born in Vegas, so likely they came from California. So you see a very similar business environment in a lot of ways.
I would say going through that cafe experience in San Diego, if it's 99.9% of restaurants fail, if that's the statistics, and then that it costs anywhere between, if you're super cheap and able to do it for like $30,000, which probably nowadays is probably like 50 or 60,000 on the super cheap, and on the average might be $100 to $200 to $300,000. The 99% chance of failure on a $200,000 endeavor just seems like a chance that I don't want to risk.
There's better things we can do with your time and money,
like a podcast. Starting this podcast, I felt like it was a smaller risk, at least, especially the upfront cost was a lot smaller. Getting all the cameras, lighting, the equipment, the mics and whatnot. It's just the risk of not making any money is high, it's higher, or meaning,
it's a longer shot.
Yeah, it's a longer shot. I may do this for 2 years on YouTube before I start to see some type of monetary benefit.
It's less painful in the meantime, though.
It's a lot more fun. Yeah. The cafe was a bit. It was fun, but it was stressful. This is a lot more fun overall. I don't feel the stress.
You also have like a safety net. It's not like, it's probably very different from what you had last time.
Yes.
Where a lot of things, all of your future seemed like depending on the success of that.
Yeah, that was an all or
campaign.
nothing. Yeah, swing for the fences.
Yeah.
For sure.
For the for your research, I'm just thinking about that question where I said, "Did you have any regrets?" But kind of a tangent of that. If people wanted to go do what you're doing, do you have any suggestions for people entering that field that you're doing?
To be a genetic research scientist?
Yeah.
I mean, there's like, I feel like talking to the people who are like leading that field, the labs, and showing interest and reading about it is, it's people are very accessible usually. So if there's something like you're interested in and things align with the laboratory where you are applied to, it's pretty doable. And this like for academia, like everything else in terms of industry, you would need to have a background, pretty solid background in that field before applying or actually being considered.
So if you were interested in a particular lab's work, you could potentially email or call them and start a connection.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's like the best way of actually getting like in that, because like you would just see what they do, and like if they're interested, if they have room, like
nice.
It's like, yeah, it's pretty fairly easy. It's mostly like chatting with people and showing interest, and like if you're excited, like usually
it's like a pickup basketball game. You just head over and talk to some guys on the court.
Yeah. That's how it works. It's like at the end of the day, it's connecting with people and telling what you're interested in and like what you want to do and
nice
things like that. Yeah, it's like one of the beauty of academia. It's like very
an open
fluid
communication environment.
All right, I'm going to start us in the final questions. If there's any tangents, stories that you want to add in, either any of us, feel free. Final questions. First one, what great daily habits do you have?
Wait, what? Say again?
What great daily habits do you have?
I don't have that many, unfortunately. It's like I always like feel like very like rushed all the time. So I'm not like a really good person for that. Like a great daily.
You're a slave to the mice.
Yeah, right. Like, no. One good thing like I enjoy is like I like talking to other scientists whenever we had a break and things like that. It's always like you always like underestimate. So you think like you're actually taking time away from the bench, but you never like taking time away from the science because you're always like thinking about it. And so those like chats with like your colleagues is always like where like the new ideas are coming from, and that's how you challenge also like some of your hypotheses. You run it by the other people. I think that those are like, at least for the work part, are great habits you have.
So keep talking to other intelligent people to keep your mind in the game.
Hopefully like this
podcast.
Like
like knock off like the bad ideas, or there are like things that are like it's like you come up with something, you're like, oh, this is gonna work, and like someone's like, I already tried it last year, actually it doesn't work. I'm like, okay.
Worms don't do that, bro.
I'm not gonna waste my time. That's actually one of the things, like I think biggest limitations in science, because if we all have ideas, right? Like we all come up with things. It's very unlikely, like statistically speaking, that somebody else hasn't tried it.
Oh, totally, yeah.
And sometimes, like when you come up with an idea, like if it's not out, it might be because it actually doesn't work, and somebody else tried, and that's why it's not out. And we actually oftentimes so that's what we call like negative results.
Yeah.
And there's not like incentive that much for people to share those negative results worldwide.
Yeah, you don't publish all your dead ends.
Yeah. Exactly. So like a lot of people but that is actually like a great thing for science that would benefit everybody, because that's time and energy that people would put in, things.
So we need to make a dead end journal.
I mean, they do exist, but like
Okay.
you need to actually publicize it so that people actually get something out of it.
Oh yeah.
Unfortunately, like, people are not like really looking at those. Like if you publish like in a dead end journal, or like your dead end data, people are like, okay, so what? Because like people are interested in like what works, right?
Yeah.
So that's how like journals operate, and that's how like you make progress in your career. But I think like that's kind of that's sad not to see that. Like find better ways to actually get an incentive to actually get people to publish those dead ends.
Yeah,
those are very important things.
Man, when I was 25, I thought I had invented inflatable hot tubs. I'm like, this is the best idea nobody's ever thought of. Inflatable hot tubs. If you could just get an inflatable pool and heat up the water and make bubbles and stuff, then you got an inflatable hot tub. How awesome would that be? Because hot tubs are freaking expensive. So like if I can get an inflatable one, and then I go look it up, and then somebody, I think like Bridgestone or something, had patented it like 17 years before. I'm like, oh, okay. When I was 8, they already had this idea that's patented. And then I think a couple years later, the patent expires, and I started seeing it in the Sky Mall magazines in the airplanes. Like, there's an inflatable hot tub. Yeah. So, yeah.
All right, next question. What do you know or think of cryptocurrency?
So, I mean, I have like some knowledge about it. I mean, like long version or short version?
It's long version.
Liem loves this topic.
No, it's I mean, like, well, the founder, or like the person who started, like, I mean, it's believed to be Satoshi. I forgot his last name.
Nakamoto.
But I think it's a very interesting concept where, like, basically you have a decentralized transactions that don't involve the third party, where basically relies on the blockchain technology, where basically everybody puts, there's a ledger that people make transactions on, that's sent out to the world, everybody sees it, agrees on it, and then you build that next, you confirm that ledger is actually legit, and then we move to the next. And nobody can change that ledger, because you would have to hack all the computers, and because you have like so many computers, the world is unlikely to be able to hack them all to change the ledger. And the way it's identified is using like the SHA-256 function.
Oh,
he knows a lot more than a
fancy.
little bit.
Yeah. I think it's a pretty amazing thing. Like, it's just, again, like back to statistics. It's just like, like it's just like the amount of, like, it's a very interesting function where like whatever you can put in anything and gives you like the same number all the time, but predicting that number is almost impossible. Like statistically, it would be like more than like a number of atoms in the universe to actually be able to, because you would have to go through all the entire process of like trying every single different combination to get that. So it's so unpredictable that basically that's what makes it safe. And also the amount of computing that you would require to actually go through all of this to find whatever that number will be just cost prohibitive, and also physically in this, like in the universe, impossible. That's what makes it like such a great tool. And I think it's like like in terms of like safety, I think it's very interesting. I mean, if you do like the brute force work, we still don't know mathematically if it's an unsolvable problem. Because
the math that I've done, it's about for conventional computers nowadays to hack one transaction, it would be about the chance of it would take one computer about 1 with 70 zeros. That's how many years? So 70 zeros. So I don't know. That's trillion years. Basically the time to the end of the universe. So to hack one transaction that's how improbable it is.
Yeah, it's very improbable. So, but there's no mathematical theorem yet proving that it's not an easy solvable thing, because we still don't know if you can come up with like the number and have a theorem on the shaft function to come back and find something that will actually get that same number.
Are we talking about hacking the private key to an address?
So let's say like you have like the end goal, whatever, like the output of the shaft 256. Are there any mathematical ways other than like brute force, where it's like trying every single every single combination to get that number?
Yeah.
Are there any other ways to actually get back to that first to the input?
Hopefully not.
And we don't know like if there is like such a like, I think mathematically there's no demonstration yet showing that it's impossible.
Okay.
Or that it's possible.
Yeah.
So there might be like a very easy way to solve it, but nobody knows it yet.
Easy
Whoever
for a math
finds
genius.
It's going to be very well. Whoever finds it is going to be the end of that world.
Interesting.
Yeah, I would kill that person.
Oh, like you can make a lot of money.
That's why I need to kill them.
So, do you have any cryptocurrency? And don't say how much if you do.
No, actually, so I made a mistake of like selling them like when was that? Like almost like a year ago. I was not like I did not stick to it, and I should have clearly, but now I don't. I'm like hoping for like for it to go down a little bit more before I actually
Jump back in.
But yeah, I don't know. Like, yeah.
What's your current? So it sounds like you understand cryptocurrency quite a bit, actually. Out of the 33 guests I've interviewed, I think you've given probably the second best explanation of. Well, actually, even that person, he was a software engineer. I forget if I asked him about cryptocurrency. We talked about it. So yeah, I think you've had the second best and the first best outside of a software engineer. So, what are your thoughts now with cryptocurrency? You said you want to jump back in, but do you think there's a full future for it, or what's your thoughts on it? Is it technological?
I mean, just the concept of like, going around banks who actually basically charge you for something, like for the transaction, and who are actually the ones who make the thing legit, because that's, at the end of the day, that's what they, instead of having like the blockchain technology, they are the ones who actually are like guaranteeing that things are legit, right? That's, they do that transaction, but we always have to go through a third party. So I think like in the long run, no matter what, banks are gonna probably like losing that importance, because you probably won't need them anymore. But I think like since everything is already pretty much monetary, like digitalized, I think like a lot of like states could already start building like I think China has started to build its own money, which would be digital money.
Yeah, I heard that too.
Money. And who?
No, I heard that too.
Yeah, so China, and I think that there was like other, I forgot what other country. There's like several of them like already started to, like the Sweden, the crown. So they also started like to, they want to make it digital for like at least for like very small scale, sales and transactions.
Yeah.
So I think states can be like that good intermediary who can do that, and I mean things can get there eventually. The thing is like, I mean, it's always like an arbitrary value you assign for like cryptocurrency and whatever, like the real life thing, like $1 or something like that. But I think like overall, probably like China's push towards that is gonna be very interesting, because you might end up with like, I mean, I think like for their perspective is avoiding to use the dollar as a, as that, because it is a limiting factor for like exchanges. and also like you are under the rule of the extraterritorial rules of the United States for whatever like you do. So I think that probably that from their side, that's like a big thing, because like if you can now like have 1 billion people using only like that digital money, and have like other people actually exchange with you from other countries and sell goods in China, or like have China export things, that can actually change a lot of things for the United States, or like the dollar itself. So I think that's
go ahead.
Another option to think about.
What do you think would happen first? Massive biological warfare, global massive biological warfare, or mass adoption of cryptocurrency?
I think probably like the first one.
What's more likely of these unlikely things?
Wait, did you say the first one? Mass biological warfare?
Yeah, probably that.
Oh man.
No, but like I don't know. Like I think like it's probably going to take a lot of time to get people to use crypto. But the fact is, I mean, now you have more and more like places where like you can buy with crypto. But one of the things that's kind of problematic is always like whoever does the transactions are still like charging. I mean,
yeah.
What was the name of the company that just went public 2 weeks ago?
Coinbase.
Yeah. They make money out of it. So there's still a transaction. So it's like a bank in some sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But well, Coinbase is charging the transactions to, mainly to change your fiat to cryptocurrency, and then there is a fee if you're trading Ethereum for Bitcoin, but I feel like Coinbase's fee is overall small in the big scheme of things. It is a lot per transaction, but in the big scheme of things for mass adoption, I feel like it's a small thing to be in the way. Anyways, that's random.
Oh, yeah, but similarly, banks don't charge you very much for a checking account. So small fees over many transactions, or small fees over,
Yeah, I think that's like one of the things that needs to be knocked out, like make it actually completely independent.
Yeah.
Like there shouldn't be any reason why there's like a fee for those things.
Yeah, you could send, say, some cryptocurrency from one address to another. You do pay the transaction fee to the miners, right? To the network, so that the computers that the blockchain is being distributed to and run on have some incentive, some payment to do the work, right? To run the electricity and have the hardware.
Yeah, I'm actually wondering, like in the long term, like depending like how high the price is going to be, if that's going to be a viable amount of if the energy taken to actually mine one is going to outweigh the actual value.
Yeah, so there's Bitcoin and Ethereum are proof of work, which is the mechanism for the mining servers to use the electricity to do their mining math. And so they have
cryptographic transaction work.
Yeah, and there's other proofs, like proof of stake, which is I'm thinking should be the future. I could be wrong, but that seems to be where I see a lot of the new coins are moving to: Ethereum, Cardano, Algorand, Solana. But proof of stake brings the electricity cost way down, way down, like to the point where it's as far as I understand, it's not a factor in the whole scheme of it. So meaning proof of stake, instead of having money that you purchase hardware to do the mining, proof of stake, you have some of that coin and you stake it, and then your stake will validate a transaction. If other stakers around say that you validated a wrong transaction, that network will charge you a fee for validating that incorrectly. So you will be slashed, they call it, and charge the fee for that. So you will lose part of your stake. And if you lose enough of your stake, then you get kicked out. I'm not sure if there's even a point. Oh yeah, there's even a point you don't even have to lose your whole stake. You could lose some of your stake, and I forget if it's on the Ethereum 2.0 is 3 slashes and you're out. I might be wrong in that. Don't quote me. So you get slashed 3 times, they kick you off the network for good. So proof of stake is the new wave that hopefully will be less electricity.
I see. What is your thought about like the fact that the SHA function was like started like by the CIA? Was it the CIA?
I don't remember.
Because I think that was used for like encrypting purposes, and that's how the first one.
We're losing.
Like
the CIA heard us.
I mean, kind of showing that was like a great way.
Oh, you're back.
Yeah, we already like encrypting everything.
Yeah,
I
don't
got their attention.
Yeah, I don't know enough history of that. What I thought, even to take it a step back further, because RSA encryption is a part of that. I think SHA-256 is the type under RSA. So RSA is the formula of how to do it, RSA, and then SHA-256 is the difficulty level of RSA. So there's SHA, as far as I understand, there's SHA-256, SHA-512, SHA-1024, SHA-2048, and there's even SHA's not even, there's other ones other than SHA also. Keck is one, I think. So RSA, let's take it back further. RSA, I think, was back in World War I and World War II, when they're just trying to encrypt messages and they have to do it by hand. Now we have machines that do it so fast that you got to pick a super huge prime numbers underneath RSA. That's actually underneath SHA, which is underneath RSA. So you're choosing super large prime numbers to do these calculations that are so tough that it's virtually impossible for a computer nowadays to hack it. So I think the CIA, if I'm correct, I think what they were doing is they were trying to get cryptographers through the years, especially even World War II, World War I, they were trying to find cryptographers that knew this math to encrypt messages, encrypt and decrypt messages for people that they're sending the messages when
secret spy stuff.
Yeah, whether they're in Germany or whatnot during World War II. So then, as far as I understand the history, then lead into the 1950s and 60s, and they're still using cryptographers. And during CIA time, they're just trying to find the best cryptographers. So it's almost like interviewing new candidates that they may hire. So they just create these SHAs and they just make it tougher and tougher. So I from my understanding, I think that's the background. It's just they made it tougher and tougher, and they're just looking for the best cryptographers, because as technology moves, they just make it. They need to use it for computers, and they need to make it more complicated. They need people to understand that. So that's my guess with the CIA stuff.
Oh, not that the CIA has some nefarious interest in cryptocurrencies.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I was thinking about it. It's like, what if they already know how to get back to the other side?
I mean, the way I would guess the answer to that is there's so many mathematicians around the world. Like, I mean, you're talking about Ethereum, who has Vitalik Buterin, Cardano, Richard Hodgkin. These mathematicians or people that have a heavy math background, they probably would have had they would have either figured out the answer, or they would have found a way to create
to know theoretically that it's possible.
Yes, there you go. Yeah. Now, there's no way to answer your question, I guess, Milos, the way you say that. But I'm hoping, from the global decentralized nature of blockchain, there's so many mathematicians that haven't figured it out yet. So hopefully the answer is there isn't an answer yet.
So the CIA or the NSA or any organization like that could conceivably have cracked the math to decode cryptocurrency, but highly unlikely.
That's what I think. Yeah.
And even if they had, then you would have to think, do they have an interest in doing that? Or just keep it a secret.
Yeah.
And wait till there's a need, because their mission is not anti-cryptocurrency, right? So what is the CIA's mission? What is the NSA's job? You know, they're probably focused on whatever their primary goals and directives are, and it's probably not anti-money stuff.
If you have 15
Hopefully.
minutes free sometime, Google how does RSA encryption work? And there's a 15-minute video. I think it's 15 minutes. I don't think it was 45. He goes in depth on breaking down how you get two prime numbers. You do all this math. He gives you the equation, and then you get a private key and a public key, and how you hash something, how you encrypt with your public key and how you decrypt your private key. And hopefully that might make you feel a little bit better with this encryption stuff.
Could you put a link to the video?
Oh yeah. I'll find a link, and then I'll put that in the description. Do you happen to have any questions on cryptocurrency, on where I'm a software engineer, so I get pretty deep into cryptocurrencies, looking at white papers. My disclaimer is I'm not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice. This is for educational purposes only. I am a software engineer. I do look at this stuff, and I feel like I have a better fundamental understanding than most, but I don't know everything. So when I look at these white papers, some of the equations that they throw in on how they're doing the mining algorithm, it's over my head. But I think I'm able to decipher a little bit more information than the average person. So do you happen to have questions on cryptocurrencies in general, or a specific cryptocurrency or anything?
No, not that much. I just find it interesting. Those encryptions are pretty much a lot of most of the transactions that are done, whether it's like banking or just encryption for computers to computers. They all rely on those algorithms, and it's kind of interesting how everything revolves around that. And I was it's always interesting to think about. There might be an easy solution that's that's how maths work. It took us to demonstrate some of the firm all of those big questions in math sometimes took very easy ways to be demonstrated, but just it had to be seen by someone in a particular angle to solve it. I think it's because the thing is it's interesting, is there's no mathematical proof to say that this is it's an unsolvable problem, but on the other side there's no there's no proof that it's actually solvable. Things like that actually I think is always interesting.
Yeah,
mathematically fascinating.
Yeah, and Bitcoin's been out since 2009, so we're looking at a 12-year track record where Bitcoin has not yet seen a hacked transaction or wallet that we know of. All the hacks that the news likes to
sensationalize.
Yes, that's exactly the word I was looking for. When those hacks happens, actually mostly exchanges. So an exchange, just like any company that has IT infrastructure, if a hacker gets in behind the walls and gets to your server, they're going to get the keys or the passwords or whatever. So these exchanges had their private keys on the servers. The hackers got in, took the private keys, and took all the cryptocurrency. So the only known hacks are that, not fundamental hacks on the RSA SHA-256. Yeah, exactly.
I heard somebody said once, it's the ultimate bounty prize.
Oh yeah.
If you're a mathematician or a hacker, you wanna hack Bitcoin because the prize is all this money.
Yeah, I think another. Oh, go ahead.
Pretty infinite at this point. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's super interesting thing that I get. I'm very optimistic about cryptocurrency and blockchain, is the truth by consensus mechanism of it. That's something that we humans have never had. There's no way to build it before. So this provides a truth by consensus, which is a huge paradigm shift to everything. It could be. I say it could be because it's up to humans to use this tool. It's a fantastic tool. It's the best hammer that we'll ever have Well, ever. Yeah, it's the best hammer.
Seen yet?
Yeah, it's the best hammer I've ever seen, and it's up to humans to pick up that hammer and use it. But this truth by consensus could change everything from if the government wanted to put their voting on the blockchain or their bill of rights, their constitution, whatever laws, and if they want to have their judge and lawyers abide by these rules on the blockchain and vote by your wallet or your identification by blockchain, it's just this paradigm shift that's amazing. So I suggest all friends to buy cryptocurrency if they can. I'm not a financial advisor. Don't listen to me. This is educational purposes. I have to say this because I don't understand why the laws have it this way that we have to say this, but it's silly. But if friends could get $5,000 or $10,000 in, buy, hold for 7 to 10 years, and hopefully maybe you could retire by then.
Well, that sounds like financial advice.
It is financial advice, but it's not financial advice. It's not financial advice, but buy.
No, I do remember like when you hear the stories, like people who are like, trading Bitcoins for like a coffee, and like literally a Bitcoin for a coffee, like
in the past,
15 years ago, whenever it was like, just, and you're like, oh, damn, $50,000.
Yeah. Today it's what, it's 57,000. I forget today's price on Bitcoin. It's crazy. But then there's other coins too. If you do buy, I suggest Ethereum. That's probably the top horse I would suggest. I actually don't suggest Bitcoin. I only suggest it if you want to diversify your portfolio. But as technology, Bitcoin is, in my opinion, far inferior to Ethereum and other new coins that are coming out. It's just the masses of people don't understand cryptocurrency. So the technology of Bitcoin is 2009, and they haven't really upgraded a whole lot. There's a lot new.
Yeah, but like if the SHA, like if the hash function is like that unsolvable, then there should be no issue then.
Yeah, and also the SHA thing upgrades. So earlier when I said there's 256, 512, 1024, 2048, those all scale. So if you get quantum computers that come out, you could just go to the hardest SHA that computer could handle to encrypt it.
Yeah, but what if you come up with like the quantum computer before? Like, I don't think IBM or Google will tell you like they came up with one before, like actually. I think that would be the first thing I would use it for.
Steal
the
coins. That's right.
First, and then I will come up, sell everything, and then come out of the world and be like, "Hey, by the way, there's a quantum computer. I can hack it."
Yeah, I don't know the validity of it. There are coins that are coming out that saying they're quantum proof. I don't know the validity of it. So they are choosing certain encryption, like SHAs that are harder for quantum computers. And it's probably not even SHA. It's a different type of encryption. I don't even know the wording. They're using a different type. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know if there truly are. Well, we need a quantum computer from Google to test that out.
I just so I drive around a lot for my work, and on the radio, NPR had somebody talking about quantum computers, and like, yeah, we're really struggling. We can't get it to count. It's good at doing certain things, but it can't count 1, 2, 3. So I think quantum computers are very young, still very much research. Like you can't go buy a quantum computer, even if you had $1 billion. You'd need a research team to try to concoct one, and it'd be.
I think we're able to apply it for very specific tasks that are very that.
Unique functions.
I mean,
yeah,
great for like very, very particular tasks, but not like, it's not like just like a regular computer where you can just put a function and just
it won't be replacing your laptop anytime soon.
No, I think we have a long way to go.
All right, next question. What's the biggest problem for humans? What should they do to fix it?
I think like the biggest problem is probably going to be climate change. And with that comes all like infectious diseases like that we experienced last year. And this is just gonna get more and more common.
You see more pandemics coming, huh?
yeah, I mean, it's not like, it's gonna happen. It's
Yeah.
not like, it's just like being prepared for the next big one, or like what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
That's like, has to do with our ways of how to, like, how we globally interact. And I think it's important to be able, I think like we missed a big occasion here to have like the OMS, like the WHO, like in French is OMS, like WHO, to actually, take a step forward and be able to, coordinate worldwide the response, and have like, 'cause at the end of the day, like if other countries are not safe, nobody's safe.
Yeah.
So you cannot prevent like diseases and things like that to spread to other countries, because we are. Sorry, the bird is going crazy.
Doesn't like all this pandemic talk.
It's like, no, but that's the thing, is like, it's we rely on like globalization heavily, and we saw like a lot of like flaws, and also like the greatness about globalization, but also like a lot of like flaws about what it means. But I think global warming is probably like gonna have like way more bad consequences, because if you think about it, it's just changing like the temperature in some areas in the world will result in like a lot of people dying of hunger, but also a lot of like populations having to move. Like we're talking about like, I think some of the figures were like in the hundreds of millions of migrants, people who will have to leave their places in the next couple of like 10 years or so, in the very near future, because where they will be, there won't be enough supply or like things to survive. So that's going to be like a huge
so something as simple as a change in the rain patterns makes it difficult to grow enough food for certain places. So why would you live in a place where you can't grow enough food? Is that kind of a real basic way to...
You have like places that are densely populated where they're already struggling for food, for access and water, very basic things that we take for granted. But even for us, soon, like I feel like even like California had like many droughts. I mean, the water supply relies on like just like it's, if you think about how fragile this is, it's, you just need like one thing to go down, and then like it's going to affect like hundreds of thousands of people, and if not millions, like just like at this very small scale. And I think that's something that can be seen very soon. But like just like on a global like scale, like global warming is definitely going to
it's going to jack things up,
make a lot of impact.
I thought it was interesting that I found a YouTube video. I think so. Someone had some recording from the 1960s of a professor talking about climate change coming up and that we should do something. And they posted it on YouTube. And I'm just watching a 1960 video of somebody talking about climate change, that we should do something. And we're in 2021 now, and it feels like the world's not doing enough, unfortunately. I know we're a bunch of humans. We all got our own agendas, and it's kind of tough to get us all on board on one thing, but it feels like climate change, or the efforts to prevent it seems like it's not, I don't know, my opinion feels like it's not there.
I mean, you see it like with like the pandemic, people were not willing to actually make the changes that were required for like everybody not to be affected, like to flatten the curve and things like that. So yeah, it's I think it's a challenging thing, and it's not gonna come from the people. Like it can start, but it's not enough. It has to come from like the top, and like like I don't think people realize how bad this can go.
Yeah,
it's just like, and as you said, like people from the 70s were talking about that, and people still think it's like something that's not a thing, or like it's debatable. I mean, in the scientific community, it's not. It's been like almost 40-50 years. It's not a debate anymore.
It's definitely not a debate.
So the only debate that we have here is just like or how bad it's gonna be.
Yeah.
Or like where are the, like it's like, oh, we're gonna go plus X degrees, or we're gonna go like slightly less. It's like we're not like, there's no question anymore about, so it's just like now like all the debate is about like the models and like what we think is gonna fit the best. By the end of the day, like it's, you know, everybody agrees this is happening and no change is gonna be.
Yeah, for anybody that doesn't want to believe the science, there are some places where you can go look. Like here in Vegas, we're right next to the Hoover Dam, and you can go see that the Hoover Dam ain't full of water because the rain has changed. The snow in Colorado has changed so that we're not getting enough water like we used to fill up the Hoover Dam. So that's a huge impact. You can ask, businesses that rely on seasonal changes, for example, ski resorts. Ski resorts will tell you, like, hey, we have records. Our season used to be this long. Now our seasons are a lot shorter because there ain't as much snow as there used to be.
Yeah.
So that's a very easy, measurable thing you can see with your eyes. And even places like Miami, Miami, as the years go on, they get more and more flooding. And you go, hey, this city was built here, and we got records. We can show you this city floods a lot now.
Yeah.
Those are very undeniable, real world examples that if somebody doesn't want to look at data, you can go look with your own eyes and see these places where things are getting screwed up.
An interesting one that the wine sommelier brought up last time, where he said in that certain region, I forget what country it was, where they couldn't grow grapes because their region was too dry or too hot. But now, because of climate change, that region's able to grow grapes and they're able to produce wine. So it's a weird.
We're a wine region now. Enjoy it while it lasts.
All right, next question. Think of at least two friends that should do this conversation. Call them out.
Oh, who would you like to see on this podcast?
I mean, like a couple of like, I'm thinking more like about scientists, maybe, because I think it's always like interesting to see. Maybe like one of my friend, Damien Gillier, he does a lot of like super resolution microscopy, where basically you can look at single molecules and you can track the single molecules going into the neurons.
Oh, wow.
And I have another friend, she's also French, Céline Riera. She has a lab in LA. So she's her own independent investigator. And she studies a lot of like metabolic changes, disease related to the metabolism. So I think those more science is always fun.
Awesome. Yeah. No, I love science stuff. Like I don't watch any like TV shows, typical TV shows. I watch all documentaries, like all. I pretty much, I don't know anything when people talk about like movies that are out or Game of Thrones or whatever anyway, any of the popular.
Captain America's black now.
Is he?
Yeah, FYI.
And so I watch documentaries and try to find scientists to listen to all day long. That's kind of my thing. So yeah, I would love to contact those people and see if they'd be willing to do a podcast.
I just want to know how to speed up my metabolism
safely.
Yeah. Magic pill.
Not meth.
Renee said meth. Okay, last question, last official final question. Tell me in a few sentences or less what this conversation was like. If you've done a podcast or interview before like this, describe the biggest difference. I may use this answer in a collage video for new potential guests.
I mean, I like the expectations. Like I haven't done any things like that before, but like I thought it was like a pleasant conversation that like we would have back in San Diego when I come back from lab and talk about science and what you guys are up to. So it felt like a natural conversation for me.
Awesome. Cool.
No, this is good practice because now that you're published, you're going to be on TV shows and stuff.
I don't know about
that. and then eventually a Nobel Prize.
But I mean, there's like a couple of articles that came out about that. That's coming out in the press. I think I hope it gets the attention it deserves, awesome. Especially for those people who are in desperate needs of treatments. I hope this pans out.
Yeah,
we will definitely pushing that towards the clinic. So hopefully we'll see some results in the next couple of years.
Awesome. Yeah. All right. Any closing thoughts?
No, great to see you, Milos. Thank you for the work that you do. hopefully you're making medical science advance and saving lives. So great to see you again.
Yeah, thank you, man. Thank you for your time. Thank you for everything.
Of course.
Cheers, guys.
Woo!
Yeah.
Here's to Nicola.